To Fox News.
Did you know Lantern Towers served as both a lighthouse and a prison? You would if you watched the series Besieged Fortresses on CuriosityStream. Launched by the creator of Discovery Channel, CuriosityStream is the opposite of mindless TV. This is nonfiction entertainment created by award-winning filmmakers, available on any device. Satisfy your curiosity for less than $2 a month at curiositystream.com/Fox. That's curiositystream.com/Fox.
The Secretary of the Treasury tells the House panel she's keeping a close eye on inflation.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen believes higher consumer prices are temporary, telling the House Appropriations Committee.
As the economy gets back online, it's going to be a bumpy process, but I do believe we'll see some adjustments. I don't think this is endemic inflation.
Yellen says shortages caused by the pandemic are causing higher prices for some goods, and that the administration has the tools to address inflation should it get worse. Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
College athletes would have the right to organize and collectively bargain with schools and conferences under a bill that was introduced today by House and Senate Democrats. Several states, including Florida, Georgia, and Mississippi, have laws scheduled to go into effect July 1st that would allow college athletes to profit from their image and likeness. The NCAA has loosened restrictions on how athletes can be compensated, but has held firm in that athletes are not employees. With the holiday weekend almost here, rental car companies say they're running out of vehicles.
Inventory is short as rental companies sold fleets last year, and they are slow to replace because the ongoing chip shortage means new cars are not yet available. To improve chances of snagging a rental car, experts say stay flexible on travel dates and destinations if you can. Join travel programs for discounts and check out rental locations outside of airports. They may offer more inventory.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
An innovative new smartphone app funded by the GOP is set to streamline voter discrimination in key swing states. With more on this fascinating story, we go to Jason Copeland.
Well, thanks, Andrea. You know, a new election means a new set of racist voting laws in battleground states, causing long delays and chaos at the polls. But does it have to be so cumbersome? This year, the exciting new Vote Right app aims to help minorities avoid the hassle by stripping away their vote right in the palm of their hands. The Vote Right app is incredibly user-friendly. When you register, you first enter a set of personal information and take a photo of your skin. Vote Right immediately makes rash generalizations about you, and these are just some of Vote Right's intuitive new features. Real-time updates on the bullshit red tape preventing you from registering, and even a video of a condescending white woman who will scream at you from the phone rather than in person at the polling station.
This isn't a food stamp line, sir. You need ID.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
And we're back.
Hey, thanks, man. Except we haven't started yet.
Oh.
I mean, we are back technically. You're back because this is, your day. And so you're back. And we are back from yesterday because we do broadcast Free Talk Live. That's this show that you're listening to.
I saw you about to say it, and I just wanted to get that in just one last time.
Way to, what do they call it?
Jump the gun.
Jump the gun.
Yeah.
Step on my toes.
Yeah.
Steal my thunder, if you will. This is Free Talk Live. We are a live call-in radio talk program. If you want to get your voice on the air and talk about whatever's on your mind, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, you can call 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160.
Is Taiwan a country? That's what I want to know.
Well, lots of things are made there.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it? I assume it's a country.
Well,
but I don't.
Let's throw that out to the listeners.
Listeners, do you know, is Taiwan a country? Let us know, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it is myself. I am your host, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass, not necessarily in that order. Joining me,
Richie Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Glad to have you here, man. Sadly, this is normally Thursday Gun Day, which doesn't rhyme or make any sense or form a cool acronym or anything. But my Obi-Wan Kenobi is absent. He had a thing come up, and he is not able to be here. That would be Matt, who's normally here. So we'll talk about stuff. I
was loaded up on gun articles.
You were loaded for bear.
Yeah, it's like fully loaded.
Yeah.
And then I go like, well, and just for him to shoot them all down again, like that's not even the important stuff.
Right.
But, ready to go. But there's other things.
I also had a couple of things, and fortunately, these sometimes we bring up topics or articles that we want to talk about, and like we can call them evergreen, which means they'll be good in a couple of weeks. It's not a problem. Yeah. They'll stay fresh. We'll put them in a Ziploc bag in the fridge and keep them for a couple of weeks. Be fine, or toss them in the freezer if we have to. So,
I was told frozen grapes is a thing. Have you ever had frozen grapes?
I have not. Somebody amongst the normal hosts freezes bananas, but not until they're overripe.
Okay.
And then supposedly they're delicious.
My mom freezes.
You peel them and you put them in the freezer, and then you take them out and eat them like as if it were ice cream or something.
My mom does that, but not to eat. She does that to like put into smoothies.
Oh.
Like once the bananas get, the overripe, you're not going to eat the banana. She cuts them up, freezes it, and then we'll mix that into a
That's a great
smoothie.
idea.
Yep.
I've been eating a lot of bananas recently. I am the ape man. I am the walrus. No, I'm not the walrus.
Walrus eat bananas.
No, that's lyrics from a Beatles song.
No, I got that.
But I have a problem keeping the rotation so that you always kind of have a banana that's ready to eat. Okay. Like I find myself, they're either overripe or they're not ripe yet. I'll have two different bunches because I try to, keep a good rotation so that I've got some bananas around when I'm feeling snacky.
Do you tape off the stem, like keep the stem covered? Because I heard that's a preservation technique.
Yeah, the place that I buy these bananas does that for you. They got some sort of little stretchy thing over the stem of the bunch, right? So if you got like 6 in a bunch, there's a little plastic thingy over them. And I leave that until it falls off because, you start eating bananas, it's too big.
I think that's about the best you're going to get because there's a short window that bananas are actually like ripe and ready to go.
Right.
Much like avocados.
Right. Yeah.
So if you buy a bunch of 6, so when I go to the supermarket to buy the bunch of 6, I usually look for ones that are, fading away from green, right? But not all of them the same color. So finding that bunch where it's already where they're already ripening at different rates is kind of helpful.
Bananas here on Free Talk Live.
2 of them sitting in the chairs. Oh,
bunches of 6? I don't know.
No, you're a banana. I'm a banana. Wouldn't you like to be a banana too?
There is we here at Free Talk Live tend to speak from the perspective of freedom and words like libertarian and anarchism and the non-aggression. These kinds of words float around all the time. There is a place in. I think they're out of California, if I'm not mistaken. It's a dessert place, a little store that you go into, and they basically have frozen bananas like we're talking about, but then you can order it with like different toppings. They'll like roll it in like a chocolate sauce and then add like, crushed peanuts or almonds or something to it and, different toppings on it.
Are you thinking of Disneyland?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is I haven't told you the name of the place because that's the amazing part.
Okay.
Right. I just wanted to describe the dessert that they offer as their product and then tell you that the name of this place is Bananarchy.
Nice.
Yeah. I would like to, open a, another
Bananarchy,
one of those, but here in like Keene, I think that would be great.
So
especially if it was next to like Keene, great.
So one of the great things about anarchists, if they are truly anarchists like that, right, is they shouldn't believe in IP, and you can totally just rip off that branding.
Well, and I
open up your own.
don't know if that's the case. I don't know if they are, or if they just thought it was a trendy name.
Well,
or
lame on them if they're
cool,
not.
Right?
Then.
I don't know any of that. I don't know what happened. One day I Googled something and Bananarchy came into my purview. And this was years before I even moved to New Hampshire.
Was it like a fat finger typo? Like, let's just look up anarchy, and you accidentally hit the B first?
I think maybe I was looking up like recipes that contained banana or something. And then like I wanted to look up the definition of anarchy. And, the cursor was already in the search window for whatever I searched for. And I just typed the word. And it was like, did you mean bananarchy? And I was like, what the heck is bananarchy? And
no, I didn't. But thank you, Google.
Yeah. Mistakes that change your life, right? Pleasant mistakes, right? Sometimes you make a mistake and it's the best thing that's ever happened to you. I can say that from a musical perspective because a lot of guitar players, they won't tell you this like to your face, but they sit around and they noodle on the guitar trying to do a thing that like maybe somebody else wrote or trying to figure out how so-and-so, did that little thing in the solo that he does or whatever. And they'll make a bunch of mistakes and they'll be like, hey, that actually sounded pretty cool. I'll save that for a little later, a solo of my own, kind of a thing. So sometimes mistakes can be pleasant.
I just like Jack Black, who, when he can't do it on the guitar, just does it with his mouth.
Yes. I've talked about this on this show before where I want to put together a band, like one guy on bass, a couple guys on guitar, one lead, one rhythm, a guy on drums, and
nobody
then a singer.
is your lead singer? Oh.
And then a singer, but like none of the people involved have actual instruments. It's all done with their voice, their mouths, right? Oh. So the bass player is all doom 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 doom, and
so
the
then
guitar
you end up with "Don't Worry, Be Happy,"
but
like a metal version,
dun, right? But like, and then the drummer is kind of doing a modified beatbox, right? He's like, right, that kind of a thing.
You just described "Don't Worry, Be Happy,"
except I want it to be like rock music.
Understood.
Yeah, or at least.
But for those who don't know, there were no musical instruments in that song. That is all like Bobby McFerrin and his lyrical voice.
It would have been cooler to do with the guy from like Police Academy.
Michael Winslow.
Yeah. He does all the sound effects. Yeah, that would have been cool. Wow. Did I introduce us?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I say the name of the show?
Yeah.
All right. I want to make sure I'm taking care of my first chair duties.
I even stole the "and we're back" part and got that now.
You did, and that's what's confusing me because you're not in the first chair, even though you have been in the first chair for the previous however many Thursdays. It's been several of them, if not, a half dozen or something?
You were busy when I got here, and I kind of settled in where I'm sitting and, got my booty groove in the chair and like,
And here we are. We are here, and this is where we are.
And you can call in and talk to both of us.
You can, or neither of us.
Well, that wouldn't be too much fun. Then you just get the automated message and you sit on hold for 3 hours.
You can talk to yourself, I suppose. Okay. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. You brought in a whole bunch of really cool stuff.
I did.
And so I only decided to add one thing, and we'll talk about that first. This is from Reason.com. Secret recordings reveal officials discussing filthy conditions of 4,632 immigrant kids held in a Texas tent camp.
They're going to have to learn how to hover over the toilet.
In recordings and documents obtained by Reason, officials at the Fort Bliss tent camp admit that children lack basic necessities such as underwear and access to medical care. We'll talk more about this and a whole bunch more and get to your calls and your thoughts here on Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160. More coming up.
Bonnet.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
It's The Onion Radio News. A family of 5 is found alive in the suburbs. This is Doyle Redland reporting. The Holzapfel family, long feared missing or spiritually dead, was found alive in the Chicago suburb of Buffalo Grove today, somehow managing to survive in the hostile environment for more than 8 years. Rescuers discovered the 5-person clan after a survey plane spotted a signal fire from a barbecue grill. To protect themselves from the elements during their long ordeal, the Holzapfels fashioned a 3-bedroom ranch-style lean-to with brick facing and white aluminum siding. Paramedic Mary Gill was first on the scene.
They were all suffering from severe cultural malnutrition.
The Holzapfels have been returned to civilization for now, though trips to the Art Institute of Chicago and a nice Peruvian restaurant intended to reacquaint them with urban living have been met with confusion and resistance. Doyle Redland for The Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. You can tattoo that on your forehead or your friend's forehead so you can read it more readily. You can grab a crayon and write on the fridge if you like.
Tattoo it backwards on your forehead.
You could etch it into a stone tablet. But that is the phone number if you would like to get your voice on Free Talk Live tonight. In the studio, it is myself, the captain.
And Richie Rich.
Who's back, by the way.
I'm back.
Have we gone bananas?
Bananas.
Bananas.
B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
I have to issue a correction, a statement I made in the previous segment. I said that there was a dessert place that served frozen bananas with assorted, you dip it in stuff and top it with stuff and all that kind of stuff. It all sounds very delicious. And that place is called Bananarchy. I said that it was in California. That is not true. Not in California. There are 3 locations that are all in Texas.
Well, that changes everything.
So the Austin area specifically, Austin, Texas. If you're listening in Austin, Texas, or if you're going to be in Austin, Texas, Bananarchy has nothing to do with this show. I just think it's a good idea as far as like a dessert place. I don't know if they are of the libertarian or freedom philosophy type mind.
I'd be disappointed if they wouldn't with that name. Like you can't put the anarchy in your name and then not be like related to that term.
Maybe they have the classic picture of the silhouette like chucking the Molotov cocktail, but instead he's got a banana in his hand.
Frozen banana.
Yeah, I wonder if that's. We'll have to look into that. At any rate, we were talking about this. Well, we had just sort of. I read you the headline: Secret recordings reveal officials discussing filthy conditions of 4,632 immigrant kids held in Texas tent camp. Now,
should give them some frozen bananas while they're there.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got into the frozen banana thing, but we did. But we're going to talk about kids and basically these are slave kids.
Are you afraid to say
camps.
kids in cages?
They're not really in cages, but they are certainly being detained.
Because it's not Trump. It's not Trump, so it's not kids in cages.
Oh, well, I don't see any cages in the pictures. It looks like they have like these
Is AOC out in front of the tents crying her little eyes out?
Have you heard of MABA? M-A-B-A?
No.
That's Make Alexandria Bartend Again?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Briefly, yes. That's funny.
Well, speaking of briefs, apparently none of these children have underwear. Not none of them, but many of them don't have. And when they're given clothing, there's all sorts of things in this story that we'll get to, but I'll just start at the top. More than 4,500 immigrant children and teens are being held in enormous, filthy tents on a military base in Texas without access to basic necessities, including underwear, according to interviews, photos, documents, and recordings obtained by Reason. Hundreds of senior federal employees from various agencies have been detailed to the facility, where they're being highly compensated to perform tasks for which they have little training or direction. If you took a poll, probably about 98% of the federal workers here would say it's appalling. That's a quote from a federal employee detailed to the facility, and he told that statement to Reason. Everybody tries in their own way to quietly disobey and get things done, but it can be very difficult. The shelter, which is largely populated by teenage boys, is housed at Fort Bliss. It's an Army base near El Paso, where the harsh desert climate is used to simulate conditions in Afghanistan and Iraq for military purposes. As other shelters are being shut down, the Fort Bliss shelter is swelling. In theory, these shelters are a way station for kids who are waiting to be reunited with relatives or other connections in the United States, when in fact staffing problems and other issues have left many kids stuck in limbo for up to a month or more.
So I don't want to get too far ahead, but every time I hear this, I go like, what would you do with them otherwise? Right? Like I'm not a closed borders. I'm not a send them back. But there's, if you can't find the families, which they're claiming to be, right? Who should be responsible for the health and well-being of that many unsupervised youths?
Those are all great questions, and that is not, necessarily where I'm going with this particular article. Where the point that I'm getting at, and you'll see that as we get through the article, is more of, the government operation, right? You've got a whole bunch of people who are being highly compensated to accomplish certain tasks, which are not being accomplished.
Understood.
Right?
I'm not taking their side.
I'm not even questioning whether or not this and who should be, what I'm saying is these things are happening and they're being performed poorly because nobody has the correct incentive to perform them correctly.
Yep.
The Associated Press first reported earlier this month that after moving them out of Customs and Border Protection detention centers, the Biden administration is holding tens of thousands of asylum-seeking children in an opaque network of some 200 facilities. On Monday, Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra said the Fort Bliss facility was not fit for tender-age children. But
of course not. It's a military base.
Yeah, but thousands of teens continue to be housed there nonetheless. The shelter is staffed by a mix of contractors and federal employees detailed to the Department of Health and Human Services, many of whom signed up for the duty out of a desire to help stranded immigrant kids. Roughly 750 federal employees work. 750 federal employees work here, according to a May 22nd daily update obtained by Reason. A federal employee said most of them are essentially working as babysitters and clerks. As of May 22nd, the shelter held 4,632 minors, 3,873 boys, and 759 girls. So you do the math there. That's what? 20% girls?
Okay.
Ish. Just round
That
figures.
won't be a problem later.
You detected my foreshadowing.
There are some things that are very
give Richie Rich a cookie or a banana. Sorry,
bananas.
Banana. Yeah.
There are some things that are very clear. Like, of course, it's government run, so it's going to be done poorly. They're not going to care for the people, in their care.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be problems when you have males in that age range doing what males in that age range do. Because it comes naturally to them at that age.
And also the females.
Just
because there are, only 20% of them doesn't mean that they are also not of that age and the time where they want to do teenage things.
Right. So, but again, unsupervised, you can't let them out into the wild. Like, all right, you've made it to America. Figure it out.
It sounds like they may have a bit of a Lord of the Flies problem on their hands. I was talking about like a Lord of the Flies in space.
You did, and I kind of wanted to talk about that because you basically just described the new movie Voyagers, and that's good job.
Well, thanks, man. 603-283-6160. What do you think about these kids being held at a military facility?
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain, I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live, where the B on Richie Rich's shirt doesn't stand for bananarchy.
Bananas!
It stands for Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
If you would like to call and get your voice on the radio, the telephone number to do so is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Richie Rich.
We've been talking about this article from Reason.
I really thought you were going to segue off of that B into a Bitcoin live read. I'm like,
that would have been a good idea.
Right?
Well, let's take your idea and run with it. Bitcoin.com. Speaking of the B in Bitcoin.
Speaking of the B in Bitcoin.
And bananarchy. Bitcoin.com, which, by the way, bananarchy does not accept cryptocurrency if you're in Austin.
Lame.
As near as I can tell. So if I am able to open one here locally, of course, I will accept cryptocurrency.
I'm boycotting cryptocurrency until the Crypto 6 are free.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
That doesn't make any sense. You should boycott USD until the Crypto 6 are all,
Understood.
Until all the charges are dropped against all of them. All right, anyway, Bitcoin.com is the best source for you to learn about cryptocurrency. You can go there right now and click on Get Started at the top of the page. When you do that, you will find a cornucopia of information. Not a real cornucopia or even like a fake one, just a whole bunch of information.
Maybe in the fall.
That is neatly organized, so it's easy for you by your needs. There's no longer any excuse for you to ignore this important and world-changing information. I can't accent that enough. Cryptocurrency is such a game changer. It's 10 years old already, but it's still in the early days. The killer apps are just now starting to show up. And so I'm very excited. If you're already a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can get the latest headlines of all the news relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a very slick and easy-to-use website. Please visit bitcoin.com. All right, segue over.
There's got to be a wiki on how to trade Bitcoin for bananas or bananas for Bitcoin.
I wonder what the Bitcoin to banana ratio is. How many Satoshis is one banana?
Yeah, you would
worth?
have to denominate it in Satoshis at that point.
Well, of course, right? But how many Satoshis to get a banana?
I don't know. Let the market decide.
If only there were a device in which you could look that up.
A calculator, a computer.
Some sort of a magic rectangle that just fit in your pocket.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Huh, interesting. Maybe somebody will invent that one day. At any rate, speaking of these near 5,000 children being held on a military base. As of May 22nd, the shelter held 4,632 minors. Recordings obtained by Reason reveal the stress of the influx of they're calling them unaccompanied minors, that has put on the federal government. They also reveal the leaders at the shelter are well aware that they're failing to provide basic necessities, including medical care and physical safety, to the children under its supervision.
Can I highlight one thing real briefly?
I don't know. Can you?
I don't know. I'm gonna try to squeeze it in there. So I asked a question earlier, like what you would do with these minors as it stands now.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it's also important to understand that they are mostly unaccompanied because of the terrible immigration policies, right? And the closed borders, right? If you let people from, Mexico and South America cross the border freely
with their
unencumbered,
families,
they would come with their families and then integrate into wherever as well as they possibly can.
Right. They would find some jobs. They'd figure out how to live.
They
survive,
would figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. But then you make it so difficult that they're coyoted in, right? And then sometimes part of the family comes and then some of them get held hostage by the coyote for more money or whatever, and you separate them and the U.S. government goons brings this problem upon themselves.
Absolutely.
With terrible policy.
That's a fantastic
that leads to
point.
a bigger mess.
Yes,
Right.
they've created their own problem, and now and it's the children that are suffering. Of course,
right?
Of course, it's the children that are suffering, because when you have an institution based on immoral things like violence, it doesn't care. There's no care involved. It only cares about one thing, and that's growing larger.
Yeah.
At any rate, federal employees detailed to the Fort Bliss shelter, speaking on condition of anonymity, told Reason they are working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. Basic forms of equipment, including lice kits, are in short supply, and frustration is mounting. In a recording of a recent training session for federal employees run by a staffer from Chenega, an Alaska Native-owned corporation that is providing workers for the shelter, the trainer acknowledges a variety of failures. I'm not going to lie, we've got people dropping like flies because it's just not something they're used to, the trainer says in the recording.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping like flies usually implies death in some form. So who's dying? Who's dying off there?
These are very good questions.
Workers are perishing at an untenable rate.
Reason is not releasing the recording of this person to protect the source's identity, but they go on to say this facility is growing so fast and we are getting kids on a daily basis. We don't have enough staff to maintain. The trainer also alludes to the poor conditions inside the tents, which house up to 1,000 people each in stacked bunk-style cots. So there's either 2 or 3 bunks in one of these cots. So very little privacy for any of these human beings, these teenagers. They go on to say, I've been into one dorm one time, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going back there, the trainer says. They're filthy. They're dirty. There's food on the floor. There's wet spots all over the place. The beds are dirty. I don't know what's going on or who's responsible for ensuring the dorms need to be clean, but we all need to be responsible for telling the minors to clean up after themselves.
Do as you're told.
The trainer says there has also been inappropriate contact between staff and the minors, as well as between minors themselves. So we were talking about teenagers.
Foreshadowed that earlier.
Teenagers doing teenager things, but also the staff, right? So, think of a predatory person who's into, inappropriate contact with underage folks. Oh, they'll just take a job as a trainer at this Texas facility.
So that I want to say that might be a little unfair, because the way it's been described is these people aren't taking those jobs for that reason necessarily. They're being foisted into it, and then it just happens to align with their perverse depravities, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I will say this: is it wrong of me to want them to have less staff, because insofar as the staff that they do have are realizing what a terrible thing this is, and they don't want to participate and are finding better things to do? Like, in that respect,
throwing employees at a problem may or may not solve the problem. That remains to be seen. So
you're under contract to the United States government. You get to babysit the kids today.
I can't say whether or not your assessment is true or false.
I just want to be fair about it. Like it's not like, the position went up for, staff member at overflow migrant facility and some pedophile is going like, I'll do that. Right? Like it doesn't seem like that's how they got to that point.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make it sound like we're implying that.
We have already caught staff with minors inappropriately, the trainer says. Is that okay with you guys? I hope not. We've also caught minors with other minors, which is, we've got teenagers in this shelter. What's happening with teenagers? Hormones raging out of control. It's important that we maintain safety and vigilance. Stop what is happening. If you don't watch these kids and you're not the one who's going to step in, who is going to? Be that person and stand up for the minors, because that's what we're here for. Children are also being ignored when they request medical care. Some of the incidents and complaints we're getting also is that we've got minors who are requesting medical due to not feeling well, and the staff members are telling them, there's nothing wrong with you. Go back to your bed, the trainer says. These are legitimate complaints, and it's my duty to let you know what's going on, because if you know who these people are, you need to report them. Reason obtained another recording of a May 19th town hall-style meeting on health concerns at the shelter by a Dr. Joseph Hutter, who's a commander in the U.S. Public Health Service. And we will tell you more about that coming up here on Free Talk Live.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I almost pressed the wrong buttons. Where am I? What day is it?
Thursday.
Who are you?
I'm Richie Rich.
Who am I?
Bananas, the right Reverend Captain Lord
Bananas.
Kick-Ass Bananas.
What's the name of the show?
Free Talk Live.
Well, I guess we've got that out of the way now. Thanks, man.
Call-in number.
Oh, right. 603-283-6160. If you'd like to get your voice on the air. Talk about whatever's on your mind. We're talking about these minors, M-I-N-O-R-S, not M-I-N-E-R-S, who are previously referred to as kids in cages. Now are being referred to as unaccompanied minors.
Good job, Joe Biden.
Yeah. It's the same kids. Except now, as they close down some of the facilities. Yeah, except they're closing down some of the facilities that used to keep these kids, and they're sending them to this place that's on a military base in Texas.
That makes even less sense.
Where the public can't have access. And the article will actually talk about that a little bit further down in the article.
They're overloaded, obviously, and they're closing down facilities to house them.
Yeah, well, that's how all the kids are getting here to this Texas place, because all the other places where they're housing the unaccompanied children, right, they're closing all those down so that Biden can look good, like he's doing something. And so they're shipping all the kids to places like this.
Can we stop paying those people? Is that just everyone?
Well, we should just stop. I mean, yes, we should. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not paying anybody.
If you don't
people are taking money from other people and funneling it in this direction. That needs to stop. Yes, you are correct.
If you don't like what the government is doing to unaccompanied minors or kids in cages, please stop paying them.
Yes.
Keep as much of your well-earned, hard-earned money as you can, and just let them, wither on the vine.
Yep. Yeah, if you stop using their money, well, the effect that they have on you goes way down overall. Yep. So at any rate, Reason obtained another recording by Dr. Joseph Hutter, who's a commander in the U.S. Public Health Service. One person at the town hall also brings up a story of a minor being denied medical care. One of our volunteers was working with a child who was coughing up blood, the person tells Hutter. She went to her tent and said, "We need to deal with this." And they said, "Well, we're going to send them to lunch or dinner." Then they checked with medical, and they said it was a 3.5-hour wait to see anybody. No one else says no, Hutter responds. No one else says after lunch. You let the tent nurse know. No one slows down or denies medical care, and if the medical tent is backed up, they can call on reserves. That shouldn't happen.
Where do those reserves come from? And why aren't they on staff already? Like they're understaffed and overwhelmed, and they have reserves? Like, get them on the clock, man.
I am with you. Apparently that's not how government works.
Well, of course not. I am not surprised by these actions.
There's forms that need to be filled out, and emails that need to be sent, and approvals. Probably some licensing involved somewhere.
Jesus.
I don't know.
I'm genuinely appalled and yet not surprised by any of these actions by the government agencies.
Yeah, this is a very appalling story. At the town hall, one person asks, Hutter how many miners and staff have contracted COVID-19. His response, "This is a question, I'll tell you, that's hard to answer," Hutter says. "It has to do with data and transparency. Wouldn't it be nice if you had graphs and charts and hot maps updated daily and everyone gets it every morning? If that graph is going to the Washington Post every day, it's the only thing we'll be dealing with, and politics will take over. Perception will take over. And we're about reality, not perception."
Sounds more like they're about optics.
Mm-hmm. "The reality is the intervention to change the situation is to constantly improve our safety measures."
So when it comes to the COVID thing, consider me a little less like concerned if they all contracted it.
Particularly if they're teens, right? Like they're in like the least risky category.
99% of them contracted it, and 99.99% of them survived it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about COVID. Federal employees, in the May 22nd Daily Brief to staff, a shelter director notes that the area known as the COVID campus is being renamed Healing Hill.
Oh.
Just like they renamed kids in cages to unaccompanied children.
Biden's bungalow.
Biden's bungalow. Maybe that's where Epstein is. A never-ending supply of kids in distress.
Yeah.
Waiting or ripe to be victimized.
I was going to say, that's a good question. How many of them have they lost or escaped or have been, kidnapped and trafficked in other ways?
They do mention something about
because
escape.
There's no accountability at all.
Federal employees told Reason that several miners have attempted to escape by jumping the fence that surrounds the shelter.
Build a bigger fence. Where's Trump?
They do not get far, the federal employees noted, since they are still within a military base. So they've got these kids in these tents surrounded by a fence inside of a military base. So even if they do try and get away from this horrendous situation by escaping, we're talking like Hogan's Heroes style, right? Jump the fence or dig a hole or whatever. Then they find themselves on a military base. They can't get to freedom because they're still on a military base. Youth advocates have also described unsanitary conditions at the Fort Bliss shelter. Lucia Welch, Senior Director of Legal Advocacy and Child Welfare Practice at the National Center for Youth Law, toured the tents recently and told the New York Times that they, quote, smelled like a high school locker room, unquote, and confirmed
teenagers.
that the children were not receiving clean clothes. Many of the boys and girls have not been given underwear, particularly ones who've been in COVID isolation, a federal employee says. After they come out, they're issued new clothes, but no underwear. And very often, it's only one set of clothes, so no other clothes to change into, and no underwear. When we have asked about it, and I personally escorted some kids to tents to ask how come they can't get underwear, the answer is, well, the contractor is supposed to provide that. The contractor leading the training sessions also acknowledged the underwear shortage. Now, when it comes to clothing, I don't want to let you guys know we're aware that there's a shortage of underwear, or that we are aware that there is a shortage of underwear, socks,
There's no
and shoes.
shortage of underwear
And
or
management
socks.
knows we're working on getting more for the miners, the trainer says on the tape. Yeah. And
because a trip down to the local clothing store. Okay. All right. Bananas.
Bananas. For one
It's a safe word for the night.
Damn. For one federal employee, the excuses are ridiculous. There is no underwear shortage here in El Paso, the employee says. I've checked at Walmart and Target. Anybody with a credit card could go and get all of this. And the answer is everything is being monitored because we don't want there to be waste. The irony is just so rich. With the salaries they're paying us, the rental cars, hotels, per diems, and 72 hours working a week, it's just mind-boggling. This person is pointing out the point that I wanted to make with this whole entire story, which is they're paying a whole bunch of people a whole bunch of money to monitor the situation and make sure that everything gets done and that there's no waste, that it's an efficient operation. And they're accomplishing none of that when they could very easily have just given this one guy a credit card and he could have gone to Walmart and gotten the stuff that's necessary.
You were right. And yet this is another problem with cronyism when it comes to, the capitalist structure, right? They have these contractors, and it's not in the best interest of the contractors to spend that money on, goods for the children, because it likely comes out of their profit margin for what they're getting from the government, right? If you get the money from the state, you do the very bare minimum so you can pocket the rest.
Yeah.
Whereas if there were competing agencies going like, oh no, we'll do this.
The underwear for the children, the socks for the children have to come from an approved government what do you call them? Supplier.
Yeah.
And they have to go through stringent licensing and regulation before they can be approved to provide underwear for children, which can be gotten at the local Target or Walmart down the road for about half the price of what we're paying these people.
Hanes won the bid. We are not giving them Fruit of the Loom.
Right.
End of story.
No jockey for you.
No jockey.
Or her.
Yeah.
The New York Times reported last week that the Biden administration is planning to expand the shelter to hold up to 10,000 minors.
Oh, Jesus.
Because the shelter is inside a military base, it is not open to the public or the press. Neither are any of the other emergency intake shelters. This is worse than...
So it's a military prison.
It's a military prison for children, where the public isn't allowed, the press isn't allowed. Nobody can just go in and help. Like if you wanted to go buy a bunch of underwear at Walmart and show up and give it to these kids, you can't do that.
At this point, give them a uniform, strap on an AK, and send them off to Iraq.
The photos in this story were snapped by a federal employee and passed to reason despite an absolute prohibition on taking or sharing images imposed by camp officials. Sounds like Guantanamo Bay, doesn't
Want
it?
citizenship, kill other brown kids.
603-283-6160 is the telephone number here at Free Talk Live. We've got more coming up.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Calling for answers. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The loved ones of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died after the January riot, met with Republican senators this morning as the Senate considers a measure that would create a commission to examine the attack on the Capitol.
I just don't want any other people to get harmed or for this to happen again. It was a terrible tragedy, and we don't want anyone else to get hurt.
Sicknick's girlfriend, Sandra Garza, President Biden was asked about the vote while heading back to the White House from Ohio this afternoon.
I can't imagine anyone voting against establishing a commission on the greatest assault since the Civil War on the Capitol.
The measure doesn't have much Republican support. It has already passed in the House. In Cleveland, the president delivered remarks on the economy, saying it will be a bumpy road back from the pandemic.
You can't reboot a global economy like flipping on a light switch. There's going to be ups and downs in jobs and economic reports. There's going to be supply chain issues, price distortions on the way back to a stable and steady growth.
The president also pushed for passage of his infrastructure plan. The counteroffer presented by Republicans today is much smaller. 3 Tacoma, Washington police officers have been criminally charged in the death of a black man who died while he was being restrained. Christopher Burbank and Matthew Collins have been charged with second-degree murder, and Timothy Ranking faces first-degree manslaughter charges in the death of Manuel Ellis in March of last year. The Santa Clara County, California Police Sheriff's Office says the suspect in yesterday's shooting at a light rail yard appeared to target some of his 9 victims. Police say Sam Cassidy killed himself after carrying out the shooting. Californians will be eligible for over $116 million in prize money for getting COVID shots. The state estimates about 12 million residents have not yet gotten the shot. America is listening to Fox News.
Indeed is the job site that makes hiring as easy as 1, 2, 3. Post, screen, and interview. All on Indeed. Get your quality shortlist of candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description faster. Only pay for the candidates that meet must-have qualifications. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. Get started right now with the free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Fox. Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
The mayor of Chicago is wading into another controversy.
Banning alcohol sales at certain stores in Chicago after 10 p.m.
You've got loitering, you've got other illegal activity that happens around them.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot presenting a 94-page ordinance to the city council that the Illinois Retail Merchants Association disagrees with.
We absolutely think that that's unfair.
Tanya Trish Dotwood is the vice president and general counsel of the association.
The city isn't ending the sale of alcohol at 10 p.m. for every business, just certain businesses.
Bars, restaurants, and craft breweries can still sell booze until 4 a.m.
Fox's CJ Papa. The city council blocked the ordinance so it could die or be reworked and voted on in future meetings. Mark Hauser, the founder of a private equity firm who paid $40,000 to have someone correct his daughter's answers on her ACT exam, has been sentenced to 2 months in prison for his role in the college admissions cheating scandal. Another improvement in the job market this week.
Fewer people were filing for unemployment benefits last week, continuing the overall recovery in jobs. There were 406,000 new claims for unemployment benefits, a decline of 38,000 from the previous week. Continuing claims, those still receiving benefits, also declined to 3.64 million. Though the numbers are improving, new claims still remain higher than before the pandemic. The Labor Department releases its monthly employment report next week. It's expected to offer a better picture of what's happening.
Do you know the difference between erudite and pedantic? If you do, you're probably pedantic. But seriously, a surprising number of erudite people mispronounce erudite, which has 3 syllables, not 4. Say erudite, not erudite. Because you are judged by how you speak, you want to avoid common misstatements, especially if you're a job seeker. For instance, do you know the difference between imply and infer? Only a speaker can imply, only a listener can infer. And when you say you'll be out of pocket, do you mean out of touch? Out of pocket means you're on your own dime, not yet reimbursed. And if anyone ever asks, why do you always answer a question with a question? You should reply, do I do that? Just kidding. From survivalspeech.com, I'm Holland Cook.
The push to legalize marijuana is gaining momentum. These prescription doobies will do a whole lot more than just give patients a case of the munchies. Proponents are piping up to say that medical marijuana can help patients with some of the chronic illnesses that have been majorly killing their buzz. Unfortunately, 36 U.S. states are still not a kind bud of the legalization argument. But in states that do have the plan, the results have been, well, pretty far out, man. Patients nationwide are bluntly asking state legislatures to finally mellow out so that they and their doctors can work jointly to stop the suffering that's making a hash of their lives.
So it's clearly an issue that means a lot to these patients.
So states shouldn't toke their time with this policy. We'd be upset if patients had to wait a long time.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome back to maybe the only live call-in radio talk program where you can call in and talk about whatever you want to. This
probably the only one.
This radio program is called Free Talk Live. We do generally speak from the perspectives of freedom, peace, and prosperity, but we're not limited to talking about things from that perspective. You're free to call in and talk about whatever's on your mind.
You can have your own perspective.
You can.
But we will call you out on it.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll all have opinions about it. But,
absolutely.
You know, the whole point of freedom is allowing people to be themselves and have their own opinions about things. Now, you know, different people think things through. Some people don't think things through. You know, some people see things from a different perspective. And if you're able to articulate your perspective, then, you know, fire out solid and right on. I would love to. And one of the things I like about this program is I get to learn from other people and their perspectives and their life experiences. So,
I'm not a big fan of the anti-Semitic rants that occasionally come up.
Oh, no, I'm not a fan of those either. I think I've made that abundantly clear.
I'm just saying, if you call in with that, expect to be called out or questioned or whatever, that sort of thing. But otherwise,
Agreed.
you know, let your voice be heard and we'll ask questions.
But at the same time, some of my childhood environments, and I say environments because I have some experience in foster care or orphanage type situations, adoption, you know, the state kind of tried to intervene, or at least they did intervene, but they didn't do any good, and that kind of thing when I was growing up. So I have several sets of parents and that kind of thing. So I had different situations as a child growing up. One of the situations, a couple of them actually, were highly racist.
Okay.
Right. Like the parental units, you know, grew up in a situation where their parents were racist and before them. And so it was like generations of racism. And I knew it was wrong. Right. I saw it going on and I knew it was wrong. But I, you know, being a kid, didn't feel like I could like sort of stand up to them. Right. Because they were my providers, you know.
My grandpa has entirely different lyrics to the Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So at any rate, now that I'm my own man, you know, I choose to live according to my perspectives. I see racism. I see a lot of isms as incorrect, as poor ways to live your life, to go about existing. You know, but again, other people don't have that same perspective. So, you know, it is what it is.
And as it relates to the article that we're previously covering with the, you know, tent city military base, right? The private orphanage system, right? The charitable cases, even maybe to a lesser extent, the foster care system, because that's kind of government run, right? There's a limit on how much they can intake and take care of adequately, right?
Right.
Like you can only fit so many children in the orphanage before you run into problems, and they would usually limit the amount, right? And what happens to those, you know, who like show up on the doorstep and there's no place to go? Well, I don't know, but they don't all get in like this tent city where they just stack them 3 or 4 high in filth and, you know, disgusting other situations. Just it's unreasonable and untenable, and something must be done.
It's so disturbing. It is so disturbing. I was able finally to pull up the article that you brought in from zerohedge.com.
Oh, okay. Is that where we're going next?
Yeah, I don't see why not. You know, we've talked about government, you know, wasting a whole bunch of money and paying bureaucrats to push paperwork instead of actually fix situations that could be easily fixed without the red tape that government throws in the way of actually accomplishing many things. We might as well talk about this. The headline reads, "The Fed has lost control. John Williams warns of hyperinflation in 2022.
So let's pause there for a
Yes.
moment. I'm going to do a shameless plug. I do a podcast on the weekends.
You do?
I do. Called The Anarchist Experience.
You do?
And on that show, we will occasionally have noted economist Ken Schoolin.
You do?
We do.
Wow.
And so a few weeks ago, we were talking. I don't even remember what topic we were on, but it was, it might have been cryptocurrency, it might have been some other monetary issues.
Mm-hmm.
And he nonchalantly throws out, he's like, oh yeah, the United States could easily be experiencing hyperinflation by 2022. And I stopped him. I go, wait a minute, that is a very provocative statement, right? That's not something you just nonchalantly say. Because the vision that everyone has of hyperinflation is Weimar Germany, right? Zimbabwe with the 10 trillion or $100 trillion notes, right? Modern day Venezuela and their hyperinflation. Greece. You cannot just say that the United States is going to be, experiencing hyperinflation.
Well, say it could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, he phrased it like, oh yeah, as an economist, I can easily see this happening.
Sure.
In 7 months.
As not an economist, I can also easily see this happening. Yeah.
But libertarians, right, which he also is, have bandied about this phrase for like 50 years.
Oh yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah. It's
right?
coming tomorrow.
It's coming.
But, yeah, no,
like
it's
the whole
been
Ron
50
Paul
years,
thing
right, yeah.
in the 70s, talking about the Fed and what the Fed's doing, and I go, well, at some point it has to happen, or you got to stop making this prediction, guys. Like no one believes libertarians when they say this because they've been saying it for 50 years, right? And then I come across this headline, I go, well, gosh, he may have been onto something. It may not have been as provocative.
So your guess, what was his name?
Well, Ken Schoolin is.
Ken Schoolin.
Yeah.
He said this, and then you happen across this article from a different economist, John Williams.
Right.
Says the same thing.
Says so it corroborated, what I may have dismissed otherwise as just provocative banter on a podcast.
Yeah, more libertarian talk about libertarian things that, I understand.
So now I'm really scared.
Well,
proceed.
So for the listeners who don't really know what hyperinflation is, it's when the value of your government money, U.S. dollars in this instance, becomes worth less and less, faster and faster, right? You've been experiencing this slowly over the entire course of your life.
Right.
However old you are, I don't think there's anybody listening to us.
The dollar has been devaluing since the Federal Reserve note was instituted in 1913.
Right. So I don't think
it trends down for over 100 years.
Right. I don't think there's many 110-year-old or older people listening to our program. So if you're listening to this program, the value of the dollar has been going down for your entire life. If you had, $5,000 when you were born, that $5,000 is worth much less in buying power. You can buy much less of the same items today than you could when you first got that $5,000 in the year you were born.
Right.
And so hyperinflation is just those particular set of circumstances speeding up to a point where if you got a check today for $5,000, tomorrow it might be worth nothing.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if the United States is going to experience it that quickly, that soon.
Right.
But that's where it eventually goes to. So I want to tie in real quick to another thing that's, going on in the world that you may have noticed is what appears to be another housing bubble of some kind. Right. Like I was talking to my boss today at my regular job, and he's like, oh yeah, it's crazy. Like these cash buyers are just coming out of the woodwork. And me and him are like, yeah, where are all these people like getting the cash to buy this real estate from?
Right.
So it seems like it's an inflated market. My wife was at like an open house the other week, and she said there was like a line out the door, like 26 people waiting on this, like one house that was not even that expensive because it was within our price range, right?
Yeah. Right.
26 people, well, no chance, right? We're not even ready to go, and you have cash buyers lined up out the door for this.
Yep.
And I go, well, even if this is an inflated market, right? Even if the housing is in a bubble, when you see headlines like hyperinflation just around the corner, well, if a loaf of bread costs, wheelbarrows worth of Federal Reserve notes, and you could pay off your mortgage with that, yeah, maybe it's time to figure out the real estate thing too.
Yeah, I've read similar articles that point at the same thing where like people will go to look at a house and like, oh no, it's already sold.
It's gone.
But I got this other house, so you want to go look at that kind of a thing, right? More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
Wire 47 plus nations going down and blockading what is called the South Pole.
Where did you hear this?
Look it up, mate.
Okay, I'm looking right now.
Do your research.
Well, no. See, when somebody calls in and makes a claim, they should be able to back that claim. So if you're telling me that's happening, then I'd like to see some sort of proof of that. Now, a quick Google search for South Pole blockade.
Oh, you trust Google, do you?
Okay, well, what search engine should I use? Where would I find information about this?
You can do WikiLeaks, Wikipedia, or WikiLeaks.
Okay, don't say the S word or else we're going to have to drop your call.
Dude, it's all over the news.
No, you can't say that on
Free Talk Live. 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern. Live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
(603-283-6160) is the telephone number here in the studio at Free Talk Live.
555 bananas.
Why am I giving you that phone number? Because we're a live call-in radio talk program where you can call in and talk about whatever's on your mind. 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Richie Rich.
And we'll get to your calls in just a moment. But on March 16th of 2021, tyrants, calling themselves government agents, conspired together and raided the Free Talk Live studio, the Bitcoin Embassy, and the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Renee and Andy Spinella, and Colleen Fordham. 6 people in total were arrested. We call them the Crypto Six. 4 of them were released on bail rather quickly. Ian Freeman spent about 70 days.
69.
69 dudes in, being held captive behind bars without being convicted of anything, by the way. Innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, that doesn't exist in the United States.
And after the state was notified that he was not a threat to the community.
Correct. And the person who changed his name legally to Nobody, formerly known as Rich Paul, remains in custody. That means behind bars, in a cage. What can you do to help? Well, you can visit thecrypto6.com. There's a bunch of information there. There's links to different sites, and there's also multiple ways in which you can donate to the Legal Defense Fund. These charges are not a joke, and it's going to take serious legal teamwork and many experts to protect the Crypto Six from further aggression from the state. This case is very likely to set precedent that will affect the world of cryptocurrency for decades to come. Help them in their fight for liberty and financial freedom. Visit thecrypto6.com. Again, thecrypto6.com.
It's good to have Dear Leader out. Now to get Nobody free.
Yeah, there is some word that there may be a Zoom meeting, bail hearing for him tomorrow morning around 10 a.m. I don't have that confirmed. That's just a rumor that I heard, but if you're listening and you know how to find out this type of information, please do so and share that in places like your social media or that type of thing.
So I don't want to trash talk or speak out of turn because this may not be my place. But I was talking with some friends about Nobody and his, upcoming release hearings.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know when the date was set for it. And apparently he has a history of denying release on his own because he doesn't agree with the conditions.
I was talking to somebody who insinuated that it could be a strategy.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form. I'm trying to remember how he put that, but he wouldn't be the first person to be incarcerated and then be offered a bail hearing but refused it because of either he didn't enjoy his attorney, which seems to be the case. He was given a public defender at first, and apparently they, this is all rumor. I have no facts to base any of this on.
Right.
But apparently they, had some sort of disagreement or whatever, and so he's had to get a different attorney, and now that's why he's just getting the bail hearing now. But I don't know any of this for a fact. This is all hearsay. This is all rumor, and I don't want to spread, misinformation to our listeners. I'm just telling you what I've heard.
And Nobody has spent, what was it, a year in jail on drug charges in the past because he refused to rat anybody else out,
right? Yeah.
Which is commendable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as a strategy at this point, I hope that he weighs the gravity of federal charges with decades in prison against staying in jail and not going out on bail on principle, right? I would not think less of him or disparage him in any way if he decided to compromise principle a little bit in order to put together a better strategy from the outside.
Yeah, I think getting out is the priority, but that's my take on it. I can't make the decisions for him, and he's his own man. He's a smart enough dude. He knows what he's doing.
I understand that. That's why, again, I don't want to sound like I'm speaking out of turn or disparaging in any way. I care enough to go
I'd prefer to see him out so that, him and his attorneys could better form a defense against these ridiculous charges where there was no victim.
That's part of what I'm saying. I don't know if you can do that as well from the inside if you stay inside.
It's probably much
easier.
We're not going to pay the bail to the state or to the bail bondsman because whatever.
Let's go to the phones. We've got El Conejo calling from FEMA Region 13. El Conejo, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. I'm just calling to make a very small but extremely important point about inflation.
Okay, go ahead.
When you refer to the rise in prices as inflation, you're doing a major disservice.
It's an increase in the money supply.
What's that?
Because it's an increase in the money supply.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
If you expand the money supply or credit, that is inflation. The consequences of inflation are rising prices. So when you call the rise in prices inflation, like most people do because Keynesian nonsense dominates public schools and universities, you're basically giving the political class the argument that greedy businessmen are raising prices.
Right, and you're right. That's not true. Yeah, it's the money supply increasing, and we know that more than 20% of the entire money supply of the United States dollar has been created last year.
So help me out with this one, because again, I've had people smarter than me try to explain this last year. I understand that when we talk about inflation, it's an increase in the money supply. Last year, there was also heavy inflation, and yet one of the economic predictions was deflationary effects, where you did not see the increase in prices across the board in industries, but rather the opposite. So the increase in the money supply did not lead to what we would consider to be the deflationary effects. And I struggled to wrap my head around that. So if you can explain that like I'm five, I'm still looking for a good explanation on that. In all seriousness, like I'm not being crass in any way.
Well, I'm a hobbyist on economics, but I'll try my best. So basically, when traditional inflation is just basically, it's a lot closer to helicopter money, if you're familiar with that phrase, where it's just kind of distributed a little bit more evenly, and that causes chaos. But they've gotten very good at using what's called the Cantillon effect to their advantage, which is basically the people who are closest to the fountain get to drink first, and then everyone else basically just drinks there. Can I say
trickle down economics?
Hey, can you stay with us, El Conejo?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. I'm going to put you back on hold. We'll have more of an explanation. Yeah, more of an explanation from El Conejo, and we'll discuss inflation and the inflated money supply and how that causes rising prices. Coming up here on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 is the phone number if you want to get on air.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Hey, you are going to love the movie Victimless Crime Spree. It's hilarious, heartwarming, and carries a ton of inspiring freedom messages. Feeling down about the lack of liberty in your life? You need to put on this film with some friends and have a good laugh. It's a true story about me and my friends in New Hampshire living free, singing, dancing, and getting arrested. Of course, it's all on video, and the bad guys, the cops, judges, bailiffs, and sheriffs, they all play their part like it's out of a movie or something. You would think we scripted the whole thing, but it's real life. Go ahead and have a watch, and if it's been a while, have another look. I guarantee you'll notice things now that you didn't notice before. And the best part is that you're going to walk away feeling a renewed sense of your own power. You are the master of your destiny, and you will be free in your lifetime. Victimless crime spree.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
You're going to have a good time or you're going to like it.
Oh, we're on the air?
We only have good times on Thursday night.
I pressed the button, so I guess the listeners are hearing what we're talking about.
I do not drive all the way from Merrimack, New Hampshire to Keene, New Hampshire to have a bad time, sir. You will have a good time tonight.
All right. This is Free Talk Live. The telephone number, if you would like to call in, is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
Richie Rich.
And you can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for Forkfest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which appears to be sold out, by the way. But Forkfest
It's being called sellout. 2,500 people, and they stopped selling tickets.
Yeah. Forkfest, however, happens the week after, and it's completely decentralized, which means there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do is reserve your camping site, your RV site, or your motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. There's no better place that I can think of to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving people in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party, where you can connect with other attendees. You can find a link to the unofficial Telegram chat, and also there's an unofficial Forkfest forum. Again, links to those can be found at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Come party with us. Have a good time.
And that's if Rogers is still around after Porkfest burns it down.
The porcupine free. What they're gonna turn it into Burning Man?
No, I don't know. It's going to be a large crowd. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Like I don't know what condition that campsite's going to be in. Like on the last day of Porkfest, leading into Forkfest.
I mean, they have people for this, right?
Yeah,
I mean, generally speaking,
okay.
the Freedom crowd is pretty good at picking up after themselves. And
Understood.
that kind of a
I'm
thing,
not even
so.
talking about trash on the ground. I'm talking about just the sheer amount of foot traffic going to the grass, leaving it a muddy, muddy mess.
Well, we're supposed to be enticing people to come, right? Not
Understood.
Yeah, okay.
Don't make me explain this then. Just leave it at
I'm
burn
not
it down.
I'm not making you explain it. You're the
Okay.
one who I'm like, dude, really? Come on.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good time. Come
It
party
is
with
gonna
us.
be a good time.
I'm going to be there regardless.
Okay.
Regardless of Richie Rich's picture that he painted pessimistic painted picture. Anyway, we were talking to El Caneo. Let me bring him back. El Caneo, you're back. Just hold on for just a minute because Richie Rich wants to preface this again just as a recap.
While we're on break, I found the article from April 11, 2020 from Mises.org. I'm only going to read you the headline because this is what sparked the thought in my head and why I asked the question. And I read this article, not during the break, but last year, and I'm still confused. So the headline is, even if the Fed keeps pumping money, we may still see deflation. Now, in March of last year, again, a buddy of mine on the podcast that I do said like, oh no, it could easily be deflationary. And I went, bleh? How? If they keep pumping money, that's the definition of inflation. And then weeks later, Mises comes out with the article that corroborates his position. And a year later, I'm still confused. So I'm not, again, it's a genuine question.
Yeah, I also am confused by the premise. So El Caneo, if you can help clear this up for either of us and our listeners, we'd appreciate it.
Well, like I said, I'll do my best.
Sure, please. That's all we're asking.
Deflation's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, so I can't speak to that too much. I suspect it probably has a lot to do with people moving their money around or supply chain shocks, temporarily dropping prices, and just basically the general chaos of shutting the economy down and all the money printing. But overall, the inflation, the actual act of printing money and increasing prices, you were asking, well, where are the price increases? I was looking around for it and I didn't see it. And I was in the same boat. I was looking around, I was like, well, there's inflation, so why are the prices not rising? But after digging into it a little bit, they are increasing. They had been. If you look at the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, they tweak which items are in that basket of goods politically. And
they did that recently too. They said, well, if you don't count for gas, shelter, and clothing, then everything's copacetic.
Yeah. And we've been seeing shrinkflation. And another thing is that the United States exports a lot of its inflation. So that's a huge component of it. And that complicates things. So it's actually causing a lot more havoc around the world, everyone using USD, than it is right to us right now. But the chickens will come home to roost. And as far as the other price increases, we've got financial assets that have exploded. Like when 2019, when Trump had the greatest economy in history, and the economy supposedly looks really great right now, even though we all know it's terrible at the moment.
Well, there are some people that suggest that Trump is still in charge, so this may still be all his fault.
Yeah. Well, when these financial assets and other assets go up in price, that looks good for stock. That's great. But what it really is what do people buy into for the retirement?
The stock market, right? The 401k, which is an extension of the stock market.
Right.
So the price of you saving money for your 401k is actually skyrocketing. It's great for people on Wall Street who are trading and making tons of money on all the churn and the margin. But for us, as we're trying to work and save, well, actually savings are kind of receding. And as far as actual consumer goods being noticeably more expensive, I think we're all seeing that. There's the lumber, there's the shrinkflation with the contents of chips getting looser, and the bags inside cereal boxes getting less, and things like that. But there's also the real estate getting more expensive. Like, who can go out and afford to buy a house right now? You're just talking about 26 people lined out the door to buy houses. So
yeah,
we're
well, that's the
seeing
thing.
it more
Someone
in assets.
and they're going to make bank if we really see hyperinflation. Because as I said, as we were going off, if you're paying off your mortgage with a wheelbarrow full of worthless money, you've still got the house and the land it's on. So it seems like a smart thing to do. If you believe that hyperinflation is coming, it seems like if you have the means, that's not a bad way to utilize it at this time.
Well, I think we're going to be seeing it in more and more things. They're going to try doing price controls. They're already talking about it for plywood, and both price controls and trade tariffs, which is nuts. But
they're increasing the lumber tariffs on Canada in the midst of rising lumber prices in the state.
Largest lumber prices we've seen in my lifetime.
And the sawmills in the United States don't want to do anything about increasing capacity because oh no, we've had this windfall, and that looks bad too.
Yeah. El Conejo, thanks for the call tonight. We appreciate it. There's one thing one of our chatters said that may be worth mentioning. This is at least making me think, because you said the article headline was what?
Even if the Fed keeps pumping money, we may still see deflation. And I will caveat by saying this article was released April 11th of last year.
Right.
So it was the last round of pumping money.
So one of our chatters, I'm just trying to read the name, it's Fire Juggler 74, says, if a lot of loans default, the money supply will shrink. And that makes sense because the banks are printing this money out of thin air when they give you a loan.
Right.
And they're expecting to get that money back.
And that would be deflation,
right,
if we're defining it as an increase or a decrease in the money supply.
Right. If they don't get that money back, then the money supply actually decreases and causes the deflation.
So the Fed pumps all that money to keep the same level as people default on all these loans? Is that the suggestion?
That's kind of what the Federal Reserve has been doing when they raise the interest rates and decide to print more money into existence. And then also the thing they took off the bank, they used to have the 10% requirement, the savings requirement on the banks in order to loan stuff. They've taken that away. So now the banks aren't required to maintain a specific amount of actual capital in their banks before they loan it. They can just print out new money. And so if people start defaulting on these loans, any of these loans, home loans, business loans, personal loans, then nobody's getting that money back, and that's going to cause deflation.
Which can be good because deflation should be a lowering of prices of consumers.
In theory.
In theory.
We'll see how it plays out. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Yes. Yes, it is. Free Talk Live.
It is.
Tisn't it? The tintinabulation of the sound of my voice hitting your eardrums.
Today, Junior?
$1 trillion. That's a lot of money. At any rate, it is Free Talk Live. The telephone number in the studio, 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
Richie Rich.
We've been talking about deflation.
And inflation.
Well, we want to kind of talk about this article from Zero Hedge that mentions hyperinflation could be on the way, because this is the second reference you've seen in the last, couple of days or something, week or something?
A couple of weeks.
Okay.
So we talked about it, like I said, we talked about it on a podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
with an economist.
With an economist, but also a libertarian economist.
Yep.
So I go, well, it could easily be libertarian hyperbole, because libertarians have a tendency to do that.
You had your grain of salt, but then you saw this.
Then I saw this and I went, okay. Like, I am now, it has piqued my interest more so than it did a couple of weeks ago. Let's talk about it.
So in the previous segment, we covered sort of what might cause deflation, but this headline is...
With an intelligent caller, by the way. Like, it wasn't just...
Yeah, that was El Conejo from FEMA Region 13. I'm not sure if he's pledged tribute yet, but, he may be in the Hunger Games for his region.
May the odds ever be in his favor. I was thinking the same thing.
This from Zero Hedge. The Fed has lost control. John Williams warns of hyperinflation in 2022.
That's next year.
Yeah.
Like, that's around the corner.
Yeah, that's less than 6 months away.
Yeah. That's America turns into Venezuela in less than 6 months. At least that's the visual that I conjure when I read headlines like this.
Economist John Williams, who's the founder of shadowstats.com, says the Federal Reserve has painted itself into such a tight corner with the economy, it really only has two choices. Williams says when it comes down to inflation or implosion. That's scary words. What would happen to the financial system if the Fed stopped printing massive amounts of money for stimulus and debt service? Williams explains, You could see the financial implosion by preventing liquidity being put into the system. The system needs liquidity, freshly created dollars, to function.
Does it?
Well,
does it? All right.
Without that liquidity, you would see more of an economic implosion than you've already seen. In fact, I would contend that the headline pandemic numbers have actually been a lot worse than they've been reporting. It also means we're not recovering quite as quickly. The Fed needs to keep the banking system afloat. They want to keep the economy afloat. All that requires a tremendous influx of liquidity in these difficult times. So, is the choice inflation or implosion? Williams says that's the choice, and I think we're going to have a combination of both of them. Quote, I think we're eventually headed into a hyperinflationary economic collapse. It's not that we haven't been in an economic collapse already. We're coming back some now. But the Fed has been creating money at a pace that has never been seen before.
But it was okay. So, but it was also bad. Maybe not maybe not this bad, but it was also really bad last year, early on in the pandemic, when they were first talking about all this stimulus money being printed out of thin air to assist those in need who are without work, right? And that's when the other headline. And that's where the other headline popped up, which again was, even if they pump money, you could see deflation. I go, well, which is it?
Well, you could see some deflation if people start defaulting.
Right.
Right. And that's the key, is if or when people start defaulting.
So are they saying that the overall economy has gotten to the point where they're going to pump more money into it this year, and people are so far back on their feet after the lockdowns of last year that people aren't going to default anymore? Like, are they not predicting the same level of defaults this go round?
I can't speak for them. I have no idea.
Call in.
603-283-6160.
Let me
if you're
know.
an economist who can explain this like we're five. The quote here continues, you're basically up 75% in money creation year over year. This is unprecedented. Normally, it might be up 1 or 2% year over year. The exploding money supply will lead to inflation. I'm not saying that we're going to get 75% inflation yet, but you are getting up to the 4 or 5% range, and you are soon going to be seeing 10% range year over year. The Fed has lost control of inflation, is his final statement in this quote.
So, again, theoretically, and work with me here, if it doesn't necessarily need to implode if they were to just stop printing the money, right? You may go through a deflationary period. You might see a reallocation of resources during that period, right? But I like to believe that the market, the eponymous market, will figure out how to allocate resources with less dollar bills or less Federal Reserve notes to use.
I would like to agree with you if the United States dollar, amongst all the other government-controlled currencies, we're operating in a free market, which none of them are. They are monopolies, right? So if currency were an actual free market, that is to say, other currencies were allowed to compete with the existing currencies, and if you had a better idea for a currency, you could just create one and other people could adopt it, kind of like cryptocurrency is.
Sure.
Right. Then I might tend to agree with you with, the market sort of coming in and solving the problem of its own volition.
Okay. Well, So I'm not saying that the market is going to solve the problem of money printing. What I'm saying is, just like when they pump more money in, the market reallocates resources accordingly, and that's why you see a rise in prices. If they stopped pumping money in, right, the market would reallocate resources, and you would see a drop in prices, because now you have less dollars chasing the same amount of goods.
Right, but that would also mean that loans would have to stop.
Okay.
Because, like, the Federal Reserve literally loans money to the United States government.
Okay. Is that the implosion then? Because it seems like if loans stop, then you're not. It's not about money creation. It's about only loaning what you actually have in reserves.
It sounds like
right?
a much more reasonable thing to do to me.
Sounds like the interest rate on loans may naturally rise to accommodate that lesser supply of money.
Right.
But it sounds to me, again, please call in, correct me, help me out here, because I'm thinking this through as we're talking this through, but some of it makes sense to me already.
Yeah, and I'm not an economist, by the way.
It seems to me, again, that those things can happen without a total collapse of the economic system or the consumer system or whatever, or the marketplace, as it were, right? Like banks will have to figure out what to do, right? Producers will have to figure out what to do, but I don't want to believe in a system where inflation is necessary year over year, even at a small percentage, in order to maintain that system, because I'm calling that theoretically hogwash.
Yeah.
Like there are ways around that.
I think the issue here is that,
and that would be an end to Bitcoin as well, because Bitcoin is fixed in the long run.
Well, Bitcoin aside, I don't think that what you're describing can happen because the currency is already in fiat.
Okay.
If the currency were still backed by gold or some other tangible asset, like it was, right? So oftentimes I like to reduce things to the simple, and the simplest is to just go back in time and find out, well, when was the money supply rather finite? Well, that's when it was actually, the dollars that you had were just a certificate that you could take somewhere and redeem them for the actual gold, right? It was just a receipt is all it was. So that you didn't have to carry around 100 pounds of gold with you when you wanted to make a transaction. It was just an instrument to make it easier for you to spend stuff. And so if you go back in time and you look at it that way, well, if the money supply were finite, then, this hyperinflation really couldn't happen in the first place.
Right.
So in order to solve this, you would, I think, have to, once again, if you stop the money supply from being printed, there will be a finite supply and you will see deflation, I think.
I don't really know. And if you do see that, I don't see how that's bad for consumers with a stronger dollar, even if it's in fiat, and lower prices.
Yeah. 603-283-6160.
Why should we be scared of that?
Shed some light on this economic conundrum for us here at Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Call for an investigation. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. A vote expected this evening in the Senate on the creation of a commission to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
A House passed bill establishing an independent commission to investigate the January 6th riot at the Capitol appears unlikely to advance in the Senate. Republican leader Mitch McConnell says a new panel will not uncover new facts.
And obviously, the role of the former president has already been litigated exhaustively.
At least 10 Republicans will need to join Democrats to advance the commission legislation that Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says is vital.
We must get at the truth and do everything in our power to restore Americans' faith in our elections.
Without agreement on a commission, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi could impanel a congressional committee to hold hearings. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
This afternoon, President Biden delivered remarks on the economy at Cuyahoga Community College in Cleveland as he pushed his nearly $2 trillion infrastructure plan.
I believe this is our moment to rebuild an economy from the bottom up and the middle out. Not a trickle-down economy from the very wealthy. That has never benefited people who are at this college or any other place where they're trying to make a living.
Republicans presented a counteroffer earlier today, but it's much smaller than the president's plan, and much of the funding comes from repurposing billions in unspent COVID relief funds, which the White House objects to. A Biden administration official says the suspect in yesterday's mass shooting at a light rail yard in San Jose spoke of hating his workplace years ago when he was detained by customs officials while returning from a trip to the Philippines. Police say Sam Cassidy killed 9 people before turning the gun on himself. The Coast Guard says 2 people have died and 10 others are missing after their boat overturned near the Florida Keys this afternoon. America is listening to Fox News.
At Peter Millar, we're devoted to elevating your casual everyday style. This season, our clothing channels a more relaxed look and feel with the same exceptional craftsmanship that has always inspired us. Discover the new face of sophisticated casual with Peter Millar. Browse the entire collection today at petermillar.com and explore all new designs for spring. Get free shipping, effortless returns, and receive a complimentary gift with your purchase at petermillar.com/foxnews. petermillar.com/foxnews.
Another prison sentence handed out in the college admissions cheating scandal.
A man prosecutors say referred Full House star Lori Loughlin and her husband to the person behind the college admissions scandal is heading to prison. 60-year-old Mark Hauser was sentenced to serve 2 months in prison and fined $250,000 after pleading guilty to fraud charges in August. He was accused of making a $40,000 payment to alter his daughter's college entrance exam. He's among nearly 60 people charged in the scandal in which prosecutors say parents conspired with William Singer to secure their children's college admissions through fraud and bribery. Rich Dennison, Fox News.
Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has apologized in Parliament for the internment of Italian Canadians during the Second World War. After Italy declared war against Canada in 1940, Canada interned more than 600 people of Italian heritage and declared about 31,000 to be enemy aliens. Those labeled enemy aliens were fingerprinted, scrutinized, and forced to report to local registrars once a month. He says it was wrong to scapegoat law-abiding citizens. GM is getting ready to restart plants that were forced to close due to a shortage of a crucial vehicle component.
5 General Motors assembly plants around the world that have been idled because of a global shortage of semiconductor chips are being started. Its Lansing Grand River plant will restart production of the Chevy Camaro on June 21st, and its Ontario plant that builds the Equinox will resume production on June 14th. 2 plants in Mexico.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
According to a groundbreaking new study published Thursday in the New England Journal of Medicine, psychologists have discovered that the average person, while ostensibly appearing to be normal and mentally sound in their day-to-day lives, immediately becomes a deranged psychotic when alone at home.
We observed hundreds of subjects with successful careers, numerous friends, and loving families. Perfectly normal. But as soon as they were at their homes by themselves, they began presenting behavior consistent with those suffering from dementia, schizophrenia, and various other acute mental illnesses.
Researchers illustrated the study's findings with footage of 29-year-old test subject Brian Temple, who, despite having a steady job and maintaining an ordinary social life, exhibited increasingly erratic and unstable activity from the moment he was alone in his apartment, including dancing in his kitchen to no music whatsoever. Making grotesque faces in the mirror for extended periods of time, and seemingly having conversations with no one in particular.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome back to the program. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off hour number 3 here.
Bees unscrewing soda caps, GMO in the honey, causing them to be all sorts of smarter than they used to be.
Don't slip on the banana peel, pal.
Bananas!
The telephone number here in the studio is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, I am your host, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me,
Richie Rich.
We've been talking about, we talked about deflation for a while.
Yep.
And then now we're talking about inflation and even hyperinflation and how that might occur if the Federal Reserve continues printing more money in a shorter period of time than any time in the history of the world.
Knowing the likely effects of that, because they can't be ignorant to history, right? Weimar Germany, the Zimbabwe $1 trillion notes, right, or the $100 trillion notes, modern day Venezuela, and the continental dollar in the U.S. if you want to go back far enough, right? Hyperinflation is not an unknown thing, especially to those who are in control of the money. They cannot be ignorant to these concepts.
Well, they're not. I mean, the problem is exactly what you said, control. They are attempting to control the marketplace by setting interest rates, by limiting the supply or increasing the supply. And we know that when humans are involved, I don't care what it is, that mistakes are going to be made. Human beings are fallible. So any human creation is going to contain a certain amount of mistakes, or a certain amount of mistakes are going to be made.
Predictable mistakes is more about ego at that point.
Exactly my point, yes. So, yeah. And then this article continues to say that, it says, remember, when the Fed has to admit the official inflation rate is 10%, John Williams says, when they have to admit 10%, my number is going to be around 15% or higher. My number rides on top of their number, so he thinks he's a better economist at predicting what actual inflation is versus what the government is willing to admit with the Federal Reserve.
And he may be, because as we talked about before, they fudge the numbers to stay within their acceptable range by taking things out of the commodity basket that doesn't fit the narrative.
And he says right now the shadowstat.com inflation rate is above 11%. That's if it were calculated the way it was before 1980, when the government started using accounting gimmicks, as you've mentioned, Richie Rich, to make inflation look less than it really is. The shadowstats.com number cuts out all the accounting gimmicks and is the true inflation rate that most Americans are seeing right now, not the official 4.25% recently reported.
Even that sounds high to me. 4.25 is too high.
Yep, agreed.
I don't want things going up in price, collectively 4% year over year over year.
Williams says the best way to fight the inflation that is already here is to buy tangible assets.
Houses,
land.
Yep.
Things that retain their value. I would think musical instruments, high-end musical instruments, retain their value very nicely. Let's see, what else? What other kinds of assets are there? Well, land, obviously.
Artwork.
Yep. And we could talk more about this article. The article has more to say, but first let's go to Major Payne, who's calling from Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Is this Mr. Mark?
No, this is the Captain and Richie Rich.
Oh, Captain. All right. Well,
even better.
We're back in the northern latitudes again. I hope more man can come out of the Florida Bayou sooner or later.
What's on your mind today?
That would be. Well, I'm calling originally a couple three subjects, if you'll bear with me.
Maybe.
But there's a couple of three talk shows I call into, and I'm calling from an old flip phone. I mean, I do not suck the poison of the inner tube in any way, shape, or form. I don't know how the big giant head is upon me, but if you remember the Wizard of Oz, when he says, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain," you better pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
I pay attention to the man in the mirror.
Well, he's more important, but with that silver and souls, and there's all kinds of things to do with the mirror. We're not going to get into that right now.
So you're calling from a flip phone because, you're a security conscious individual. You're trying to call a couple, 2, 3 talk shows, as you say, and what happens?
Right. Well, when I call you, it doesn't even ring. Instantly it connects. Okay? When I call Joe Pags, I get, your call cannot be connected as dialed. And then it hangs up. And then I'll dial it again. And I will get a ringtone, and then I will get a busy signal on top of the ringtone. And I can hear the ringtone going in the background.
Weird.
It's very, very strange. Very, very strange. Like I said, the big giant head is upon us.
Is your flip phone, does it have really small digits, and do you have really big hands?
Is fat fingering it?
No, I'm not misdialing it, but I do have a thumbnail the size of a quarter.
So I at my normal job, I have to make collection calls. And I don't know how this happens, but sometimes I will dial a number and it will say that number is not in service. And somehow, telepathically, that person gets my message that they need to talk to me, and they will call back. And the same number will show up on the caller ID that they're calling from, that it was just out of service like minutes before. I've had people in my office go like, no, my phone's working. And I will dial their number. They will watch me dial their number, and they will hear the not in service, and their phone is right there working.
Yeah.
And it's happened the other way, where I know my phone works because I've called my office phone from my cell phone and it connects fine. And I've watched a customer dial my office number from his cell phone and be told that it's not in service.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal with that is, but it is strange.
I have some experience in cloud telephony, and that is to say that, telephones used to be run over analog copper wires. And so whatever the tones were that you heard, or whatever the actual dialing of the telephone was, there was only so many things that could go wrong between you dialing that number and it being connected to the other side, another phone at the other side of that. Now that phones are all digital, and I mean all digital, including landlines, including your flip phone, when you dial a number, you're going through a cloud that converts your voice to a digital signal, and then it gets routed to a whole bunch of different computers that are supposed to route it to the end destination.
Even if the copper wire comes into your house and you're on a landline phone, by the time it hits the circuits.
Right, because that copper wire from your house to the big box in your neighborhood or wherever it is, it turns it into a digital signal at that box and then sends it over and through a bunch of computers. So there's a lot more points of failure, even though the call quality of today is far superior. And of course, more communications are being connected to each other than at any point in all of human history. There's more points of failure for that. So that's a long way to say that, crap happens in the cloud from occasion.
Well, I just, it never happened before we went into this Clovis thing where we had the country being divided, and they're choosing sides. Believe me, it's the man behind the curtain.
I don't know if they're choosing sides at you specifically at your cell phone level though. Like that seems far-fetched.
I don't know, man. I've been around a long time, and I've seen a lot of things, and this spooks me.
Do you have evidence that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton?
I don't get spooked easy.
Yeah,
I don't get spooked.
Major Payne, what do you know about Hillary Clinton?
What do I know about Hillary Clinton other than she ought to be shackled? Jiminy.
Hey, thanks for the call tonight, Major Payne. We appreciate you. You got his goat there, Richie Rich.
Well, I mean, if they're targeting him individually
he must
at
know
his cell
something.
phone, preventing him from calling radio shows, he must have evidence that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton.
You know, well, I'm not going to say
it's just a theory on my part.
Yeah. 603-283-61.
Hasn't been disproven. I'll tell you that much.
603-283-6160 is the telephone number here at Free Talk Live if you would like to call and comment on, well, anything really. Whatever's on your mind, you can talk about what we're talking about. It doesn't matter. We're a live call-in radio talk program, and the phones are now open. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Come on. Come on, come on, come on now. I don't know, something. Isn't that a Doors song? Doesn't it start out with...
Not a big fan of
Can't
the
you
Doors.
see that I am not afraid? Something. Yeah, I don't remember.
Sorry, bro. I'm just not that into Pokemon.
Yeah, that's all right. The guy, doing the music already laughed at me. He went, ha ha, on the way in here. So now that the music has faded out, probably everybody can hear what I'm babbling about, and I should probably mention that this is Free Talk Live.
Come on, come on, come on.
What's that? Dexy's Midnight. Oh, come on, Eileen. That's what it was.
That one I know.
That was, yeah. The telephone number here in the studio is 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
And Richie Rich.
We've been talking about
inflation.
And
hyperinflation.
Yes, that's when you give inflation a bunch of caffeine. No, it's when they do meth. No.
Which you will be able to have less of because the price of coffee is going to go up.
Oh, it's when hyperinflation does cocaine. Or when inflation does cocaine, it becomes
hyperinflation?
hyperinflation.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Or maybe when they're taking, what's the medicine they give kids?
Adderall?
Adderall.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe they should just give the economy some Adderall. And then there wouldn't be hyperinflation, it'd just be inflation.
Give it to the people at the Fed. Like just relax. Focus on something else for a change.
Yes, just numb your mind enough to sort of, blaze through the monotonous day at your bureaucratic job where you basically violate people's consent.
Oddly enough, this is a bad story, and I'm not going to tell the whole thing, but I did have a buddy.
If it's a bad story, why are you telling it at all?
Oh, because part of it's relevant. Right?
Wait, you had a buddy?
I know, it's bizarre.
Wow.
It's true.
All right, well, go ahead.
But he was on a substance similar to Adderall, because I don't remember what it was.
Batterall.
I don't remember. I really don't remember. I never can remember like the specific drug that he was prescribed.
Okay, all right.
But we were working a mundane job, like at a convenience store, like a gas station convenience store.
I'm not even supposed to be here
Right,
today.
kind of like that. I've got a great picture of that, by the way. I'll show it to you if I can find it one day. But so his job at the gas station was like to fill the drink cooler from the back, right? Like he just had to go into the cold fridge and just put sodas back on the shelf from the back, right? And
I've been there, done that.
Right. But he's like, I'm glad I have these drugs because there's no way I can get through an 8-hour shift doing this without it. Like, to get to that mundane task, right, required this prescription medication.
I also worked in a convenience store for a period of time. I was an assistant manager, and I actually looked forward to restocking the cooler because it meant I could get away from all the damn customers and also the employees who are, just as bad as the customers, really, because they're humans. And sometimes I've had my fill of human beings and I need to get away from them. And so, other folks will be like, hey, do you want me to stock the cooler? No, I don't. I'll take care of that in a minute when I'm done talking to Bob over here or whatever, right?
Oh, see, I was the opposite. I like being at the register, like interacting with everybody. It was fun.
I never made more friends than when I worked the register, though.
Yeah.
We were a very, very busy convenience store. We had 7 registers in the store. We usually only ran 6 of them, but it was in sort of a horseshoe-shaped type deal. And, wow, yeah, we would get super, super busy. 2 car washes, lots of fun. At any rate,
yeah,
that has nothing to do with hyperinflation.
None at all.
I don't know how we've segued off of that.
Because we were talking about the mundanity. And the Adderall.
The mundane, the Adderall, right? Yes, that's. Wow, thanks, man. That's the Clerks picture. You should hold that up to the camera for those watching at what is it, cam.freetalklive.com or over at lrn.fm. You can find our Twitch.
For which camera am I doing this?
Yeah, either of the ones that are pointed at you.
One that's,
yeah,
you can see.
It's from the original Clerks movie. A Kevin Smith production.
So the irony of this picture is we decided to take this picture the day after I'd shaved off like my full Kevin Smith beard.
Oh.
Like I had the full beard.
Did you have the trench coat?
I'm wearing the trench coat in the picture. It's a trench vest.
Oh, I see.
And this was another one of my buddies who decided to get like hair extensions. He paid $1,500 for hair extensions, and it went up like halfway up the back of his head.
Yeah.
So it was just a mullet. So he had to wear the cap, and someone goes like, "Dude, you guys look like Jay and Silent Bob." I'm like, take the picture. We look like Jay and Silent Bob. We're in front of a convenience store. And then my other buddy turned it into like a black and white thing as he processed it. So it was really cool.
Richie Rich doing Clerks cosplay here on Free Talk Live.
Unintentionally.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Just turned out that way.
So we've been talking about this article from Zero Hedge where this economist has been predicting hyperinflation as soon as could be 6 months from now.
Yeah, 2022.
2022. He goes on to say canned food. He's talking about buying assets, right? If the best way to fight inflation is that's already here is to buy tangible assets, and we talked about land, housing, that kind of stuff. He says
musical instruments, artwork is what we said.
He says canned food is a tangible asset, and you can use it for barter if you have to. Physical gold, physical silver are both good ways to protect your buying power over time. So are like other precious metals or like diamonds and stuff like that.
See, that's another thing, right? The counterbalance to my over exuberance and somewhat paranoia at occasions is like the wife who kind of balances me out.
Yeah.
And I get a call while I'm at work because she's doing her own thing and research. She's like, "Should we start buying silver?" Like, yes, but this needs to be a way drawn out conversation because I need to know where your thought process is. Like, why bring that up now?
Yeah.
Right? What are you thinking? Because my answer would always be yes, but maybe for different reasons than she had all of a sudden.
Well, and I mean, I can't think of a bad reason to buy tangible assets. I mean,
well, me and you understood, but for her to just out of the blue, right? Something had to spark that.
Right. Yeah.
that
She had
thought.
to be inspired. So I'm seeing more and more of my friends online who refuse to listen to anything I had to say about cryptocurrency and that kind of a thing, who are now like, "Hey, I'm just getting started in this crypto thing. I just got a wallet, and what do you think about this?" And I'm like,
"Yeah,
I tried getting you into this like a decade ago, and you were all like, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about, treating me like I'm an idiot or something, And then 10 years later, you're like, "Oh, I think I'll get into this now." "Oh, why are you getting into it now?" "Oh, well, I read a thing and it says something about the economy, and I thought, well, maybe I'll hedge my bets and buy some of this as a store of value."
So
or
normies
whatever,
are
right?
thinking about it.
It really is. Like, we're at the dawn of cryptocurrency going mainstream.
My problem with that, when it comes to like my circle of people whom I interact with about cryptocurrency, is usually when they make that like plunge into it, they come back and start asking me about all these random altcoins.
Right.
Like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" And I have no idea, man. You're speculating.
What do you think of the old McDonald coin? Like, really? What's that? I've never heard of it.
Hey, Burger King in Russia had their own cryptocurrency for a little bit of time there. That was a thing.
No, I meant Old McDonald had a farm. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
EIO, not
All
Ronald McDonald.
Oh, I'm thinking of the fast food. Yeah. Sorry.
Although, if they had like a Hamburglar coin, I might, because that was a fun character.
Would it make you grimace?
Oh, it might. It might. If only I had a shake to go with it.
Oh my.
Yes. What was the other characters?
Mayor
McCheese.
There you go.
Yeah. I hope he never comes back because
I used to ride him.
Did you now? I hope he never comes back because, well, the world doesn't need any more politicians. Wouldn't you say?
I would. Mexico has a great way of dealing with those people.
Yes. Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. More is on the way.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
On March 16th of this year, a joint government task force raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested, most were released, but Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, and Ian Freeman both remain in custody. We've been in contact with attorneys that say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from the back of our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, violating our and your First Amendment rights. You can go to thecrypto6.com and donate to fight against these charges, but as importantly, contact media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for the use of cryptocurrency well into the future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Yes, it is Feline Talk Live. No,
Meow Talk Live?
I don't know.
Are we playing the cat game?
You remember the old
Super
Meow
Troopers?
Mix commercials?
Oh. Meow, 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 meow.
Yeah. That's the one. That little jingle would get stuck in my head all of the time. Anyway, it is Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. We've got some calls on hold, so if you get a busy signal, try back or try back later. We're also on 7 nights a week from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can call any day as long as it's between those hours. So some radio stations won't broadcast us actually live. They'll rebroadcast us after the show is over. A couple of radio stations will only broadcast part of the show, so you might only hear 1 or 2 hours of the 3-hour show. But if you want to call, you got to call between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And the number is 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
And Richie Rich.
And on March 16th of 2021, tyrants, calling themselves government agencies, conspired together to raid the Free Talk Live studio, the very studio that Richie Rich and I are sitting in right now, the Bitcoin Embassy, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Renee and Andy Spinella. Randy. Wow, what's wrong with me? Renee and Andy Spinella.
Thought you'd have that thing memorized by
and
now.
Colleen Fordham. It's just because I try to read at a pace that, like, my brain jumps the shark a little bit and combines Renee and Andy and makes it into Renandy.
Renandy?
Yeah. At any rate.
So like Bananarchy?
Like Bananarchy, yes. The Crypto 6 were arrested. There were 6 people in total. 4 of them were released on some sort of bail condition. Ian Freeman spent 69 days
69.
Without being convicted of anything behind bars in a cage. And the
mostly
person,
in 23-hour lockdown, according to him as well, right?
Yeah, he got an hour a day, and
Terrible.
It's horrible. And the person who legally changed his name to Nobody, formerly known as Rich Paul, he remains behind bars still. So what can you do to help? Well, you can visit thecrypto6.com. There's a bunch of information and links up there to different things. There's a video up there that you can watch, and there's multiple ways in which you can donate to their legal defense fund in either USD or in different varieties of cryptocurrency, including Monero. I know there's a lot of Monero fans who listen to this show, so I just want to mention that is an option for you. So there's multiple ways that you can donate because these charges are not a joke. It's not a laughing matter. It's going to take serious legal teams and many experts to come together to protect the Crypto 6 from further aggression from the state. This case is very likely to set precedent that will affect the world of cryptocurrency for decades to come. You can help in their fight for liberty and financial freedom by visiting thecrypto6.com. Again, thecrypto6.com. We could talk more about inflation, but first let's go to the phones because, well, it's called Free Talk Live, right? Let's go to David in New Mexico.
Future Mexico.
Future Mexico, you are on Free Talk Live.
Cholos in space.
No, man, we're already old Mexico here. We have gone way down, way back.
Okay.
Way
back. Way.
I want to go.
Is that
W-A-Y? You cannot tell the
W-E-I-G-H?
W-H-E-Y for the protein?
It's all, it's kind of milky, kind of cloudy milky, so it's probably the W-H-E-Y.
Way.
Yeah. And speaking of that, so who's the cool cat that sings that theme song for you guys, Daddy-O?
Like the intro music?
Meow, 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 meow.
Oh, well, that was a duet between me and the captain.
Yeah, there was, a couple of, we were channeling our inner felines.
Couple of cool cats.
Cool cats, that's right.
Daddy-O.
Speaking of
because cats are really, they're anarchists, right? Cats aren't really, they don't really listen to authority.
That's why they compare us to herding cats, trying to get anarchists and libertarians to do anything collectively.
Yeah, like, to move to New Hampshire, for example. And
it's like herding cats.
That kind of a thing. It's like herding cats at times.
That's hilarious. I just put found a TikTok video of a cat that I posted on my story. There's this cat, and it's at a walk up at the door of this house, like in New York or wherever, I don't know. And it's standing on the railing next to the front door, and it reaches up and taps on the door knocker, clank, clack, 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 to get let in. It's pretty funny.
It has domesticated its human.
What would happen if you ate a Tic Tac while on TikTok?
Oh man, too many T's, C's, and K's for me to figure out.
Okay.
Give you a tick
Yeah.
tick.
But music, man, I think I heard you misattribute, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That the world's single best background song for having sex to The Doors when it belongs righteously to another rocker.
Did the Doors not do the "Come on, come on, come on, now touch me, babe"?
Oh, I was thinking of the other one, the Ted Nugent.
Go ahead and sing it for us.
Yeah, how does that one go? The only Nugent I know is
come on now, baby, come on. Stranglehold.
I feel like you guys are singing the same thing.
No, they're different.
No, it's two different.
No, I know.
Two different songs.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about the other one.
And so, like, the most famous Nude song, of course, is, we alluded to it already vicariously by doing our feline impersonations, which is Cat Scratch Fever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had changed the lyrics for that one, too, a long time ago, and I forgot to a parody.
Oh, no, I have one. I have a parody for that. It's unfinished, of course, but the chorus goes, instead of Cat Scratch Fever, it's Scratch That Peter. It's about a guy who caught a case of the VD.
Nice.
The venereal
I was
disease.
thinking, I'm more in line with thinking about beaver, so my word of choice would have been beaver instead of Peter.
Scratch that beaver.
Shame.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a work in progress. You can make that edit.
Perhaps both could be included, and a collaboration has happened here on Free Talk Live, which, if it's like any of my other musical projects, it'll just be a great idea, and then nothing will ever come of it.
Don't forget to give David in Future Mexico credit for it, so you don't have a lawsuit later on.
I don't think David in Future Mexico is a believer in IP. Are you, David?
Oh.
No, man, you can use it, no problem.
Well,
You can use, here's another closely rated, you can use this one too, it's related, another beaver, it's nice beaver, nice beaver, nice beaver, night fever, nice beaver.
Hey, thanks for the call tonight, David.
Way to end it on a high note.
I don't think the call is going to get much better than that tonight, so we'll just go ahead and let it lie, like as if it were taking a cat nap. Oh snap.
Zing.
All right. Music is a weird thing. I don't. Some people ask me about parodies, and if you haven't heard any of my parodies, you can go visit lordkickass.com, where you'll hear a variety of parodies that I've done over the course of time. And people, well, why do you do parodies?
Because they're funny.
Well, okay, there's that, but like, I actually can't help it. Like, I will walk into like a Rite Aid and there'll be some song playing. And if it's a familiar song that I kind of know the chorus or the lyrics to, I'll start singing not the real chorus or real verse.
Does that come from a generation where you didn't know the lyrics to things, so you just made it up as you go anyway?
No, it comes from, because I grew up in the, we'll say the early 80s. I was born in 72. So like, I started, 80, 82 or so is when I started paying attention to music. And I hated all of the popular music that I heard. The 1980s were some of the worst tones that I've ever heard. And some of the worst, like underproduced songs or horrible songs, really well produced. Right. And so I kind of hated a bunch of that. And so I just wanted to make fun of it. And like, but I don't set out to make fun of these things. It's almost like I'm channeling something else. Something else is coming in and dropping these lyrics.
You like the beat
into my head.
Put in your own lyrics.
And I have to like make fun of whatever it is. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
Citing their effortless physical strength, affability, and notable base tans, reports from the country's pools, lakes, and beaches have indicated that once again, the nation's Blakes coasted effortlessly through this year's seasonal lifeguard tryouts. Onion reporters spoke with Cincinnati Centennial Pool's manager, Charles Walker, about the exceptional performance of his Blakes.
We always see strong performances from Blakes, but this year's crop did especially well. Blake D did the 25-yard underwater swim in 86 seconds. Blake S and Blake C both carried subjects 40 yards without breaking a sweat.
In addition to qualifying as pool managers and certified aquatics instructors, the nation's Blakes significantly outshined the nation's stewards in swimming, performing CPR, diving, and glistening.
I'm definitely looking forward to being a lifeguard this summer. I heard the test was kind of hard, but it was actually kind of easy.
Our Kaylas are looking pretty strong too. As long as we have a few Blakes and Kaylas out there on the weekends, we'll be set.
This is the Onion News Network.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Hey guys, Mark Claire here, lionsofliberty.com, where we strive to advance the ideas of liberty daily. We bring you the Morning Roar. That's right, every Monday to Friday we'll have a brand new edition of the Morning Roar, where we provide a roundup of some news stories that you may not find in the mainstream media or even in your typical social media newsfeed. We find stories that relate to the ideas of liberty and provide you with our liberty perspective on them. Every Monday, we have our longest-running feature, Mondays with Murray, named after the great libertarian Murray Rothbard, where we'll examine an article or an excerpt from his works and help convey his view, along with our little spin as well. We wrap it all up every Friday with Felony Friday, where our own John Odermatt goes out and takes a look at some sort of felony. There's felonies committed every day, you know, whether it's a felony committed by the police, a politician, or even an average citizen. You can find all of this and so much more over at lionsofliberty.com. Advancing the ideas of liberty daily.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Wow, final segment.
And we're back.
What did the frog say about his dinner?
Burp.
Said, time sure is fun when you're having flies. Ba-dum, psh.
Told you, got to get the sound
I
effects
got to get
board.
desktop timpani. I have to get that going. I don't know why I haven't done that already. Perhaps somebody else will invent it and send it to me. Who knows? This is Free Talk Live. We're a live radio call and talk program. We have callers on hold. We'll get to those in just a minute. In the studio, it's myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
Richie Rich.
And before we get to your calls, I want to say thank you to Farmer Garrick. Farmer Garrick is a silver level amplifier. What does that mean? What is it to be an amplifier here on Free Talk Live? Well,
it means you want to advertise, market, and promote this fantastic talk show.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Stealing my thunder again.
I'm sorry. You asked a question. I'm the only one here answering them.
It was a, what do they call it, a rhetorical question? You're like, I know, I retorted. Would you like me to tort again? You can find out about the AMP program over at AMP.com. www.freetalklive.com. Farmer Garrick is a silver level amplifier. That means he gives $5 a month to help get this radio program on more radio stations. This money for the AMP program goes specifically to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live, get us on more radio stations. It does not go into Richie Rich's Marvel Comics budget. It does not go into my beer budget, personally. I have my own beer budget for that. And, it doesn't go to it. All it does is go to get this program on more radio stations. So if you enjoy this program, if you've learned something from this program, if you enjoy the hosts, the co-hosts, all that kind of a thing, then please consider becoming an amplifier and help us spread the message of liberty, peace, prosperity to more ears around the country and around the globe, because we are on the internet as well and a couple of satellite radio stations. So thank you to Farmer Garrick for your contribution. We appreciate you being an amplifier. Again, amp.freetalklive.com.
And you get perks.
Yeah, there's a variety of perks and little things that you get, but I mean, they're really nothing in compared to helping us spread the message. So that's the real benefit, but sure, there are a couple of things you get.
I prefer the AMP only podcast because it doesn't have all the ads.
That is a pretty great feature.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Let's go to the phones. We've got Joe calling from Michigan. Joe, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, you're talking about inflation. I've got a friend that's doing a remodel on his house, and it's going to cost him almost $4,000 more to do it now than.
Hey, Joe, can I ask you a question? I don't know if you're not talking directly into your phone, but you're a little bit muffled. Can you get closer to the mic, maybe?
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, I was just saying, I got a buddy who's doing a remodel on his house.
Okay.
It's going to cost him $4,000 more to do it now than when he originally planned to do it a year and a half ago.
Oh no!
So this inflation's real, and it's creeping up on us. So it's no joke. People need to get ready for it, man.
Now, do we know that one is inflation related because there was the lumber shortage, right? Which was causing and the excess demand for lumber because there's a lot of people not going on vacations who were remodeling their houses during the pandemic, right? And that would be a natural occurrence.
Inflation is it's increased demand and low supply. We shut down our economy for a year, and things weren't being made, and lumber wasn't being made, and so you got people now. Things are starting to open up, and of course, what the Fed's doing and the Fed, printing money and stuff, that's not helpful. But at least for the next couple of years, we're going to have Jimmy Carter on steroids. So, yeah,
and like I was saying earlier, the sawmills have no desire to increase their capacity. They're like, well, we'll take this windfall and funnel that money away into their savings account for future use if they need it as a fallback. If there's some other government shutdown in the future and they need to have a nest egg.
They're going to take it when they can get it, but still it's, plywood stuff. It's,
oh yeah, it's up there.
Like this.
Joe, have you seen any, incredible rise in pricing anywhere else besides lumber?
Well, where I live, gas is going up.
Yeah.
It seems like a little bit every day.
What's the price of gas today?
It's a little over $3.
Okay.
Right by my house, and it was $2.80 something when I filled up a couple of days ago. So, but it's which compared to California and stuff, that's nothing. But still, a year ago, I think it was under $2.
Yeah. That is for certain.
I'm pretty sure where I put gas, it's more than doubled since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. Like when people stopped going to work and the gas prices came down, I'm pretty sure I put at like $1.20, and I thought I took a picture to send them like, look how cheap it is, and I can't find that picture, so I have no way to verify that.
Yeah, if you need expensive stuff, man, big screen TVs and stuff, get them now. I mean, Taiwan makes most of the world's computer chips, and they're shut down. They're having an outbreak of COVID, and they got a drought going on over there. So.
Hey, thanks for the call tonight, Joe. We appreciate it.
So real quick, the importance of lumber as a price index.
We've got lumber.
Got the wood.
Lots of lumber. Sorry, shameless plug for a friend of mine's band that nobody's ever heard of. They're called Homo Jenkins. Or is it Diesel Jenny? I can't remember. I think it's Diesel Jenny. They wrote a song called High at Home Depot.
Okay.
And the chorus is, we've got, it's all nice and harmonized, and it's a fun song. Anyway.
Do they have a website and plug the website?
I don't know. I think if you just, Diesel Jenny, High at Home Depot, I think we'll get you there.
So earlier, when we were talking about the other caller with the economic hobbyist, I forget his name. I apologize. He mentioned the term like shrinkflation as it relates to what's going on. The reason the lumber price index is important is because it's one of the rare consumer goods where they can't hide the inflation and the price increase through shrinkflation. And shrinkflation is basically like the boxes on the shelf get ever so slightly smaller while the prices remain the same. So you get less Cheerios for $5 than you did, a month ago. Like that's, the packaging has shrunk, but the price hasn't changed. So you don't notice that you're getting less. And with lumber, 2x4s and 4x8 plywood, right? You can't shrink that down because then you're messing with all the measurements, right? Like a 2x4 has to be, standard size 2x4.
Right.
And so when the inflation hits those industries and those commodities, they can't hide it like they can in grocery store consumer goods.
Yeah. It is weird that they could even like hide that at all, right? You know what I mean? Like you would think that,
like the box of Cheerios, right? You got a certain size box,
yeah,
and then it sits a certain way on the shelf. Well, you make the box narrower,
yeah,
right? It still sits the same on the shelf, but now you can stack more forward and back, and no one sees that,
right? Like I went to go buy a pound of bacon.
Yep.
And I grabbed the package of the normal brand and style that I prefer.
14 ounces.
It was 10.
Oh, okay. Even worse. Yeah.
10 ounces instead of 16.
Yeah.
So, and the price hadn't changed.
Right.
It was the same price I paid for a pound of bacon the last time I
and probably
looked
in a similar
at the
size
weight.
Box.
Oh, the exact same size packaging, just less actual bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that 40% less bacon? More than that. However, I don't want to do the math in my head, but significantly less.
Yeah, it was. I didn't even notice it until I pulled it out of the freezer to thaw it, and it says net weight 10 ounce. And I'm like, what? And like I kind of keep my receipts and stuff, so I was like, let me go back and look, and how much was it? I'm like, that's the same price as I've been paying for a pound this whole time.
Yep.
And there wasn't any like, now with less bacon, you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
that's the thing. That's the insidiousness of shrinkflation. You don't see it. You just get less for your money.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see shrinkflation applied to politicians.
Like I said, look to Mexico, man.
I tell you what, boy.
Mexicans in dealing with politicians, brings a tear to my eye and joy to my heart.
Do you have like a sombrero?
I don't. I don't have a sombrero. What's the covering? I can't remember the
poncho.
Name. Yeah, I have a poncho.
Oh.
Like a buddy of mine. I know, rare.
I was just thinking that if you had
the
the sombrero, you could do the Mexican hat dance.
Nope. I can do the Mexican poncho dance.
Which was also the music that they would play for musical chairs when I was in school. We are out of time. This has been Free Talk Live. You can find our archives at freetalklive.com. We're here 7 nights a week, 7 to 10 p.m. Thanks.
Bananas.
Peace.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by